It's a dangerous world out there. And when it's time to fight high-tech espionage and international terrorism, the most powerful leaders in the world call on one man. Because only he can call on them.
Good morning, angels.
Good morning, Charlie.
Well, the award for the most 2000s trailer obviously goes to that because, good lord, that's what we thought 2000 movies were going to be like in 2000 at that point. But that was, then again, that's what you expect from a guy like Mick G. But, so, as the title indicates, this is based off of the popular 70s TV series of the same name that launched the careers of Farrah Fawcett, Kate Jackson, Jacqueline Smith, and featured John Forsythe as the voice of Charlie, who actually reprises his role in this movie. And, it's basically the same thing as the TV series. It's a modernized version of it, this time with Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu as the three women working for Charlie. Bill Murray stars as John Bosley, replacing David Doyle. It also has Sam Rockwell, Tim Curry, Kelly Lynch, Crispin Glover, Matt LeBlanc, Luke Wilson, and Tom Green among the cast in here. Tom Green and Drew Barrymore, of course, were dating at the time of this movie's coming out. This is a very interesting film because I remember seeing it when I was about 11 years old. I mean, it came out around the age I probably would have enjoyed this movie, mostly because of the hypersexuality that is in this movie, because there is a lot of not quite nudity, but there is a lot of sexy scenes with these three ladies in here. And not only that, there is some iffy stuff in here. There's definitely some stereotypes and some stuff here that would definitely not fly in 2024, I guess. Now we're now. I was going to say 2023, but we're now in 2024. But yeah, a lot of this stuff probably would not fly today. This movie did not hold up well for a number of different reasons. But yeah, some of the visual effects in here are not really that great. The action sequences are pretty fun. Drew Barrymore, Charlie. I'm getting all these names confused here. Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu. I almost said Charlize Theron, but no, she's not in this movie. But the chemistry between the three leads is very good. I like Bill Murray as Bosley. I think he does a pretty good job here. But everybody else is just kind of like, they're not that good. I mean, everybody else just kind of there playing the typical stock roles that they're usually supposed to play with these specific actors in here. But the action sequences are pretty good. Sometimes the humor can work, other times not so much. So it isn't a complete waste of time, and it definitely is not a complete disaster on any level, shape, or form. But there are definitely going to be some moments where you'll be pulling the Charles Nelson Reilly, going like pulling your collar, just like, oh, we got away with that back then? Like, yeah, it's a movie that really, really does not hold up well for a number of different times in the movie. But when it does, it's fine for what it is, but it's definitely a product of the time period, to say the least. Like, it's a movie that literally screams out 2000s, and for a 2000s version of Charlie's Angels, I suppose you could do much worse. I mean, it could be the Elizabeth Banks one from a couple years ago. That movie is bad for a number of different reasons, but yeah, I digress. This one is just, it's fine. It's fine for what it is, but man, it definitely does not hold up in several parts. But for what it is, it delivers what it promises. But again, sometimes it doesn't hold up well at all. But like I said, product of the time. So that's my thoughts on Charlie's Angels. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie we have here, and that is Will Smith, Matt Damon, and Charlize Theron. This is the movie she's in The Legend of Bagavant's the name, and you've lost your swing. You've got to go find it. That is literally what I remember most from this movie, is that scene from the trailer where Will Smith introduces himself to Matt Damon. And, yeah, needless to say, that's part of the problem with the movie in particular. So what is the story of the legend? What is the true reason? What is the legend of Bagger Vance is what I'm trying to say. Well, the story is that you have this war veteran who reluctantly agrees to play a game of golf. He finds the game futile until his caddy, Bagger Vance, played by Will Smith, teaches him the secrets of the authentic golf stroke, which turns out also to be the secret to mastering any challenges and finding meaning in life. And, you know, it's a shame that this movie really falls apart, mostly because of one specific thing that we'll get to, because people in here are trying. Will Smith, you know, this was his chance to break out into a more dramatic role, which did not work with him in the long run, and it kind of shows here, unfortunately. But he's not bad in the movie. He's just a character that we're going to get to in a little bit of why this movie was heavily criticized. But Matt Damon and Charlize Theron are perfectly fine in here. Robert Redford directed this movie, which is, it's fine, but not really up to some of his best works. This writer, Jeremy Levin, has written some other movies since this one has come out, much better films. He wrote and directed Don Juan DeMarco. He did Alex and Emma, The Notebook, Real Steel. He wrote The Time Traveler's Wife. So he has written some notable things outside of this movie, but the film itself suffers because of one specific thing, and I think you can kind of figure out what it is. This is a film that was criticized a lot by African-American critics and commenters at the time, and basically for employing the magical Negro stereotype, which is, yeah, this is definitely one of the very definitions of one of those movies that definitely uses that. I mean, like, it's really hard to sell a movie like this on that to people who are not, to people who are African-American. They look at this and just like, we're trying to get rid of this stuff nowadays. It's just kind of like, and it's not it wouldn't be the first. It's not the first time this has happened. It wouldn't be the last time after this. I mean, there'd be movies after this movie came out that uses this, and it just, the movie doesn't really work because it's just, Will Smith is basically falling into that stereotyping here. I mean, he's not really doing anything to elevate that to another level. Like, it's kind of like with Jennifer Hudson in the Sex and the City movie, where she's kind of like the white, she's kind of like the savior to Sarah Jessica Parker's character. I mean, she's pretty much playing the same character in that movie. She's not really given a whole lot to do. She's just there to be the person Sarah Jessica Parker goes to for advice and all that. And that's basically what Matt Damon is doing in this movie. And the film does not do a very good job of giving Will Smith more to do than just being that stereotype, and it really hurts the ebb and flow of the movie, because there is a lot you could tell with the story, but just the execution and the way they handle it, it just doesn't really work, and it falls into those the typical underdog sports movie mentality storylines, the stuff we've seen done over and over again, and it doesn't do anything new or different with it. You could get away with that if your movie stands out as something like that. Remember, The Titans is a perfect example of that. We just talked about that one. And The Replacements. We've had a couple of really good sports movies that kind of elevates itself to another level to become something unique and different. But this just isn't it. I mean, I was really let down watching this movie again recently, because I thought maybe time had passed. Maybe there was more to this that I was missing the first time around. But it doesn't really handle that well. And for Robert Redford, you really expect a whole lot more for him as a director to really handle this type of story better. But it just doesn't work in the end. It's a shame, too. It's also the last film Jack Lemmon was in before he died, so it was Lane Smith. A lot of good talent involved in this, but just missed opportunity after missed opportunity, and it just fell apart at the worst possible time. It's just really, really a major, major misstep. So there you go. That's The Legend of Bagger Vance.
It's his first day in New York City. After a day like this,
Hey, can I ask you something?
most people would pack up and head home. But for Nicky, this is a picnic compared to where he's from. Hell.
That's a drunk, son. Don't stand in front of that. Well, I'll have to take a mulligan on this one.
Now, he's giving Earth one more chance.
My name is Beefy. I'm an old friend of your father.
And this time, there's someone to show him the ropes.
Now, kid, put it in your mouth. Oh boy.
He's starting to feel new things
I like it better than the gelati.
and even make some new friends.
Wrap your minds around this, Chicago.
I love this song.
Oh my God, Chicago is awesome.
But the last thing his evil brothers want
I'm calling you out, brother.
is for Nicky to be happy,
Can't make me go back. Of course I can.
forcing him
Release your evil.
to find some powers of his own.
This Coke tastes like Pepsi.
You changed a Coke into a Pepsi. That was your big transformation?
That was pretty good for my first try.
From the guys who brought you The Water Boy and Big Daddy.
How can I win?
You have something that he doesn't have.
Speech impediment.
Adam Sandler.
Never doubt my skills.
Little Nicky.
No, yes. I mean, whoop, whoop.
So as I kind of said before, this is the story of the son of Satan, played by Adam Sandler, and an angel who was tasked with returning his two brothers to hell and preventing them from destroying the boundary between good and evil on Earth. And a pretty stacked cast for this movie. Not only Adam Sandler and his regulars, you know, the people that you always see in these movies, but Patricia Arquette, Harvey Keitel, Reese Ifans, Tiny Lister, Rodney Dangerfield, Kevin Nealon, John Lovitz, Michael McKean, Dana Carvey, Quentin Tarantino, Reese Witherspoon, Michael, I said Michael McKean already, but like, you get the idea. There's a ton of people in this movie, and that's just the leading cast in general. There's a ton of cameos in this movie. Like, Quentin Tarantino is in this movie, Dan Marino, Ozzy Osbourne, Rob Schneider, playing the character he was from The Waterboy, Henry Winkler, Carl Weathers, John Witherspoon. Just an incredible cast of this movie. Like, and this was the first major flop of Adam Sandler's career. I mean, this was a movie that really bombed at the box office. And I think I know why. Most of his movies had opened up in the summertime, except for when he was starting out with Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. This was coming out just a couple weeks after Halloween. Charlie's Angels was still the #1 movie at the box office at the time. Probably, if you could have released this movie before Halloween, maybe it could have done a little bit better, but a couple different things coming into play here with this particular movie and how it didn't do so well. And some people just maybe got tired of Adam Sandler at this point. I mean, it's funny, Mike Nelson from Mystery Science Theater 3000 said that this movie was the worst comedy ever made. And, I mean, he would later go on to say that about other movies as well, like The Master of Disguise. Like, the fact that he had the nerve to say that this is worse than Master of Disguise, I mean, I'm not willing to go that far. Master of Disguise is a really bad movie, but we're still a couple of years away from that. But Roger Ebert, of all people, who really has not liked a single Adam Sandler movie, said, and I quote, "This is the best Sandler movie to date," and found the Nicky character as intriguing, while at the same time lamenting Sandler's lack of finesse and vocal quirks. And I think that's what a lot of people really took away from it, from the fact that Adam Sandler just had that really bad-sounding voice to him, and I could kind of see why it is, but honestly, I remember seeing this movie in theaters. I remember liking it back then. I went back to it nowadays. It's stupid, but it's still kind of fun. I think someone put it into perspective perfectly. I saw a YouTube comment basically saying that this movie, if you grew up with it as a kid, you probably are going to like it. You probably remember liking it. If you saw the movie for the first time as an adult, yeah, you're really going to hate this movie. And for me personally, it's a guilty pleasure movie for me. Like, there is a lot of ambition to this. There is a lot of fun ideas. There's a lot of good funny moments in it. I mean, just funny, quirky lines in the movie. Like when Ozzy Osbourne shows up and casts a cameo, and like it's in the final climax of the movie where Sandler's taking on Reese Ifans' character, and when he shows up, Adam Sandler's just like, "Ozzy?" and Reese Ifans is just like, "Holy shit." Like, just the way they say these lines, it worked for me. It was funny. Like, there were a lot of moments in this movie that did make me laugh long and hard. I thought they were very funny, very very enjoyable. I thought the production value overall was really good. Like, I'm not going to say it's a classic movie by any means, or even a good movie. It has a lot of flaws to it, but it is kind of a guilty pleasure film. I mean, I think it is a very much a guilty pleasure movie. It's like, it has a lot of moments in there that really feels like, it really does feel like it had some good ideas to it, but they just didn't really have a good idea of what they wanted to go with all the way through. And I thought it worked for the most part. I mean, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, it is extremely over the top, but it's got legitimate laughs to it that actually still hold up after all these years. Again, maybe it's just because I saw this movie when I was a kid. I was at the right age demographic where I probably would have enjoyed this. I saw it in the theater. I remember liking it back then. I remember watching it multiple times on video as a kid. And going back to it, I still kind of found myself enjoying it. Like, a lot of these Adam Sandler movies that we're going to get to here are movies that not a lot of people really enjoyed, but I still kind of had a soft spot for these movies. Like, we're going to get to a lot more of these as the decade goes on. Wait till we get to 8 Crazy Nights, because you probably aren't going to like what I have to say about that one if you don't like that movie. But I digress. Little Nicky, it's a fun movie. It's a guilty pleasure movie. It's so bad it's good. It's got a lot of good laughs to it, a lot of ambition to it. I thought it was a ton of fun. I like it. I know a lot of people aren't going to like it, but that's one of my guilty pleasure films. So that's Little Nicky. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, Robert De Niro and Cuba Gooding Jr. in Men of Honor.
Reporting for diving school. Beware what you wish for.
Between the traditions that divide them
Some things don't mix, do they, Chief?
and the principles that bind them lies the courage to break the rules
You're the one they talk about.
and change history. From the director of Soul Food, Robert De Niro,
What makes you try so hard?
Cuba Gooding Jr.,
Because they said I couldn't have it.
Men of Honor, rated R.
So this is based on a true story. It ultimately revolves around 2 men of honor, their relationship, their individual and joint failures and triumphs. You have Carl Bashir, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., who's determined to become the first African-American Navy diver in a time when racism is rife, and Leslie Sunday, played by Robert De Niro, is his embittered trainer, and he's determined to see him fail. Fate, challenges, and circumstances eventually drew these two together in a tale of turbulence and ultimately triumph. And you could say there's definitely a lot of similarities to what we saw last week with I almost forgot the name of it, The Legend of Bagger Vance. In fact, Charlize Theron is in this movie too. Really for no reason. She's just kind of there to be kind of the love interest to one of the characters in here. But the movie in general, like, it's got a good. Unlike that movie, The Legend of Bagger Vance did have a good heart to it, but just wrong execution. This one kind of feels like the same thing, except this one is more closer to getting it right than it actually does completing the overall task of making it an overall enjoyable film. I think Robert De Niro and Cuba Gooding Jr. are perfectly fine in the movie, but they're really not given a whole lot to do here to make this something that you must see. Like, if you want to see some good performances, it's good for them to. It's good to see him in this movie, but other than that, though, it's your typical biopic of the same name. It's a by-the-numbers storyline. There's not really a whole lot of anything new or unique that makes it kind of stand out. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too impressive, but it's not bad. It definitely could have been a whole lot better. As it says, it's directed by the guy who did Soul Food, who wouldn't make another movie until almost 10 years later with Notorious, the biopic about Notorious B.I.G., which I think is a little bit better, but not by that much. But as far as this film goes, it's fine. It's nothing too spectacular. It's nothing too amazing. It's got a couple of good performances that make it kind of worthy for maybe a rental, but other than that, though, there's really nothing else about it that would make me say you need to go see this movie. It's just kind of like, it's there. If you're interested, that you might enjoy it for a one-time view, but other than that, though, there's no other reason why I would say to go check this movie out. But so that's Men of Honor. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Red Planet.
Cute, huh?
Not really.
She could have hurt me.
Yeah, it took away her knife inside. She's all green-gray.
The Mars Terraforming Project will be the greatest achievement in the history of human exploration. We have to make Mars the future, or mankind is history.
Ready?
Big day. No room for mistakes either.
Gentlemen, we're eating dinner on Mars.
We're on target. Auto guidance systems out.
Well, I certainly hope you people kept up with what the hell was going on in that trailer, because let me tell you something. I have no idea what the hell I just witnessed with that trailer. That trailer is just so all over the place. It doesn't know what they're trying to accomplish here. But then again, that's what most of these space movies around the time were looking like. I mean, these were movies that were selling you on the idea of going to space and going to Mars. Like, we've had a couple of movies so far in 2000, like Mission to Mars and Space Cowboys, and then we had the year before that, and then earlier in the year, Supernova, which was a complete disaster on so many different levels. But in this movie, you have a story about Earth dying, and a new colony on Mars could be humanity's only hope. A team of American astronauts is making the first manned expedition to the Red Planet, which, if you were in theaters in 2000, you saw two other movies that showed that was complete bullshit, but I digress. It's a first manned expedition to the Red Planet and must struggle to overcome the differences in their personalities, backgrounds, and ideologies for the overall good of the mission. When their equipment suffers life-threatening damage and the crew must depend on one another for survival on the hostile surface of Mars, their doubts, fears, questions about God, man's destiny, and the nature of the universe becomes defining elements in their fates. In the alien environment, they must come face-to-face with their most human selves, blah, 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 blah. You probably got tired as soon as I finished reading that, because I certainly did. This is a really, really bad movie. This is directed by a guy who's never made another movie since. It was both a critical and financial failure, and it's kind of hard not to see why, because I don't think even the movie knows what the hell they wanted to do with this. I mean, this just feels like a film that someone said, hey, space is going to be the next big thing, especially going to Mars. We got to make as many movies as we can. And almost none of them were really good. Space Cowboys was the only good one coming out around that time. Like, we still haven't gotten to Ghost of Mars yet, but this movie, it's not quite bordering into alien territory like some of these other knockoffs are, but it's coming pretty close. I mean, this is a movie that just, like I said, I really have no idea what the hell that trailer was all about, because they did not do a good job of selling you on the film itself. Like, yeah, that effect there of the military robot navigator, which is named Amy, which you could probably make the argument there's a little bit of a knockoff of Congo, too, because that was the name of the gorilla. But, yeah, that's a cool effect and all, but effects don't make the movie. You need to have an engaging storyline for us to get into, and this just doesn't have it, man. This is a film that's just so lifeless, so dull, so boring. There's nothing about this movie that makes it worth it in the end. You don't like any of these characters. You don't get invested in what's going on with their situations, and the movie just kind of really falls apart right from the get-go, and you really have no interest in watching the rest of this film at all. It's just a gigantic waste of time. There's nothing there about this movie that works. I mean, you've got two people who are clearly known for not working well together with other people on other projects. Val Kilmer, Tom Sizemore. What do you think is going to happen when you put these two together in a movie like this? And, you know, Sizemore himself said that it was one of his biggest career regrets, and that he and Kilmer have since reconciled, so I guess something good came out of it. Not a lot, but still. But, yeah, this is a bad one. This is not a very good film, so that's Red Planet for you.
A Grinch. Jim Carrey is the Grinch.
Yeah, I don't think I really need to tell you what the story is of this movie. I mean, it's pretty much what you think it is. It's a story about the Grinch, played by Jim Carrey, who is a nasty creature that hates Christmas and plots to steal it away from the Who's, who love it so much. And they add new elements to it this time around by making Cindy Lou Who more of a character in this one. Like, she's a little bit older than she was in the animated short and in the book. She wants to know what Christmas is all about and why the Grinch hates it so much. And it's part of the many things that they add to this movie. So, like I said, this was directed by Ron Howard, produced by him and Brian Grazer. And it was a big success when it came out. It was the #1 movie at the box office for the majority of the Christmas 2000 season, grossing over $345 million worldwide. It won the Oscar for Best Makeup, which, I mean, come on. I mean, even if you didn't like the movie, the makeup in this movie is kind of pretty awesome, especially on the Grinch. But was also nominated for art decoration and costume design. So with all that in the record books, people often choose the animated special over the movie. And honestly, what can I say about that? I mean, that's the original animated one. The '66 one is still the definitive version of the Grinch, no matter what happens here. But does that mean this one's an all-around mess, or as bad as everyone makes it out to be? Let's take a look at it as a whole first, before we can really delve into my overall final thoughts on the film. Let's look at the positives first. The city of Whoville looks pretty cool. It's very reminiscent of the book and the animated special, and even Mount Whoville's looks are impressively similar to the book and the cartoon. You can definitely tell the filmmakers wanted to make something that looks as close to the Seuss book as they could, and I thought they did a pretty good job with it. Second, when the film follows the story and doesn't focus on the newer additions to the plot, it does its job pretty well. It pays a good homage to the original story. There are some new additions that I did think kind of work. I liked the fact that we found out the real reason why the Grinch hated Christmas so much in the Who's. It's because the Who's made fun of him, and he basically just swore him off after a really bad experience around Christmas time. And then there are other new additions that are really bad, but we'll get to those later on. Lastly, I think Jim Carrey's perfectly cast as the Grinch. He just fits that role well, acting-wise, and in the way the character looks. You could easily see why the Oscar for Best Makeup went to him that year, because that guy had that on for so many hours a day, had to put it on for a number of hours beforehand, and like, for anybody to go through that, I mean, you have to give those people credit for making that work, and especially Jim Carrey, for making that work as well as it could be. I mean, better than the casting of people that they were going to get for this. Like, literally, they were going to get Jack Nicholson and Eddie Murphy for the role of the Grinch, which, yeah, that would have been very, very, wouldn't have been great. Would not have been great indeed. I think Anthony Hopkins' narration also is a nice touch added to here, and I do like Taylor Momsen as Cindy Lou Who. I think it's a nice addition to her, having her more of a role in this, as she's the only Who character you end up really giving a crap about, which brings me to a lot of the negative points of the film, and trust me, there is a lot of them. It starts with the fact that the good majority of the Who's are way too meaner than they should be. I mean, in the original short and books, the Who's love Christmas as a time for family and friends to be there, but here, they just look at Christmas as a time to give presents, win lighting contests, and everything against the true meaning of Christmas. I mean, they have to add to this expanded story. I get it, but there are better ways you could have kept the spirit of the original book and the cartoon than this. I mean, I think that's something that the Illumination film did a lot better, which I'll talk about that towards the end here. But in addition, as great as the makeup is, the Who's look really weird. Like, the noses they put on them are just really pointless. The Who's look like normal people except for their hairstyles. I mean, was there a purpose for this change? Because I certainly don't see it. A lot of the newer things they add to the movie are completely pointless, but the one segment that I absolutely despise, I think it's the most pointless segment in the whole movie, it's the Whobilation sequence. It's an entire 30-minute sequence, a half an hour where they have this huge celebration. Cindy Lou invites the Grinch down to the party, and he accepts, and it looks like he finally has a reason to be happy until the mayor who bullied the Grinch as a child proposes to Martha May, played by Christine Baranski, who the Grinch had a crush on as a kid, and thus causes the Grinch to cause havoc around the town and go back to the way it was before the party, thus creating the ultimate waste of time I have ever seen in a movie. Like, literally, nothing changes between the start of that segment to the end, and it has absolutely no purpose to the story, and you could have taken it out. So you wouldn't have 30 extra minutes that are completely pointless. It's the ultimate waste of time, and one of the reasons why the movie plays for 2.5 hours on TV stations during the holidays, and really, it serves no purpose to the story. You really could have just gotten rid of that whole sequence. Nobody would have noticed anything. It's one of the stupidest sequences that the film felt like it needed to have, and it shouldn't have been added to the film whatsoever. I mean, it's just, like, again, the Illumination one did it better because it didn't have to add that long segment of pointlessness. Like, there's a jubilation scene in that movie, but it's very short and sweet, kind of gets to the point of what they're trying to establish here and just moves on. And, like, it's a span of, like, 5-10 minutes maybe, but this is completely ridiculous. And, yeah, this movie has a ton of flaws to it, but in terms of the other Dr. Seuss adaptations that have been released, like, you know, Cat in the Hat, and then Horton Hears a Who and the Lorax, this is still the second best of the four next to Horton Hears a Who. Actually, third best, probably, because I go back and forth. Okay, it's kind of hard to go back and forth on which Grinch version I like, because, yeah, I like the Illumination Grinch a lot. I actually, for the longest time, thought it was their best overall film as a studio, but, like, the more I think about it, yeah, I would say the animated 2018 Grinch movie was better. That was probably the best movie of the Dr. Seuss films that we've had in the 21st century. But again, nothing ever tops the original film, like the original short. Like, nothing will ever top that. The 2018 Grinch is probably the best one we've gotten since then, and this would probably be in third. But then again, I would rather take the Benedict Cumberbatch one and this one over the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat, which is a horrible movie, and then Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, which is a hypocritical mess and in my top 30 least favorite movies of all time. But this would definitely be up there. I think there is a lot more to this that I actually really do admire about it. I like the music by James Horner. I just watched it again during the holiday season. The scenes, there are visually impressive scenes to look at, and Carrey really does put all of his effort into it. I mean, it has warrant to it, but like I said, when it sticks to the original story, it's done very well. From casting Jim Carrey as the title character, the look of the film, some of the new additions they add do work, but more times than not, it doesn't work. Everything else kind of falls flat big time. It's a movie that you could have easily taken huge chunks out of, and you would have had a watchable movie, but it's one of those ones where it's just like, it's certainly not a bad movie, but it's definitely not a good movie either. It's a very mixed bag of a film, and certainly a movie that I wouldn't say is one of the great Christmas movies, but if it's on TV every once in a year, I will pop it on. But like I said, I do like the 2018 Grinch one more, even though there are elements to that one I don't really like as much. Like, I think, comparing Grinches, I think Jim Carrey's Grinch is better than Benedict Cumberbatch's Grinch, because the Grinch in that one really is not a guy that really hates Christmas. He just hates people, and yet, despite that, he still is more than willing to go down to the town to go get groceries and interact with some people that he really doesn't like. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. He's kind of an introvert in that case, but in terms of a story, it works better there, but here, like, I will say Jim Carrey's the better Grinch over Cumberbatch, but I thought it was alright. I think it's a good movie. Like, once every Christmas, it's fine to watch, but never anything afterwards. So, yeah. On to the next film, and that is Rugrats in Paris the movie.
The Rugrats are going to Paris.
They're speaking French already.
They're seeing new faces.
Come on, I'll show you the shortcut.
Visiting new places. And getting the biggest surprise.
I'm gonna get some Barbie. Yeah, that'll be the day.
Of their tiny little lives. Rugrats in Paris, the movie.
Hey, it's not ready. Wait for me. Somebody needs a nap.
Starts Friday, November 17th.
So Rugrats in Paris is, of course, the sequel to the Rugrats movie, and kind of like with the Rugrats movie, how there was an episode before setting up this movie, there was a TV movie that came out just a couple of months before this movie did, called, I think it was called Acorn Nuts and Diaper Butts, which basically was setting up a lot of what they have in this movie, where you basically have the Rugrats going to Paris and Chucky basically taking the leading role in this one, searching for a new mother, who we see the introductions to his new mother Kira and her daughter Kimmy Finster, who would later become eventual characters in the seasons to come after this. And this marks the only appearance of the two villains in the Rugrats franchise, Coco LaBouche, played by Susan Sarandon. It's basically Cruella de Vil, kind of, except instead of dogs, she hates children, including babies, and her accomplice Jean-Claude, played by John Lithgow. The first Rugrats movie was fine for what it is, a decent feature film version of the show, keeping the spirit of the series intact, upping the animation style as well as the adventure aspect, but still keeping kind of the charm of the original series. With this, I feel like it's a vast improvement over the previous film, because it seemed like the people behind this movie decided to try to give us more, not just in terms of an adventure, but more going into elements of stories that have been mentioned in the series beforehand, but never fully realized, such as the main crux of the film, in which not only the babies go to Paris, but Chucky searches for a new mother after his dad said it's time for him to get back into the dancing scene, which again, like I said, is a subplot that dates back to the original runs of the series, the Mother's Day episode, of course, and then the TV movie, which I just mentioned. I mean, in the Mother's Day episode, we basically find out that Chucky's, what happened to Chucky's mother and why she hasn't been seen up to this point, and Chaz decides to tell Chucky after all these years that she had a terminal illness shortly after her birth, and that's a pretty impressive thing for a show to go for, and be not afraid to tackle some pretty heavy stuff in there, and it's a very good episode. If you haven't seen the Mother's Day episode of Rugrats, definitely check that one out. And a lot of the emotional moments in Rugrats in Paris do work very nicely. There are a lot of really good quiet moments. The beautiful animation that's in this movie. Like, there's that great scene where Chucky's looking out of the airplane and the clouds show him and his mother. And it's some really nice CG animation that they put in there. Overall, the animation looks a whole lot better than the first movie does. I think it adds to a lot of the enjoyment factor of this film over the first film. The little bit of the downside that I have with this is there was the big climax. You gotta have a big climax. Of course, it's a sequel, but it's also a Rugrats sequel. So you have the kids inside this big Reptar animatronic from basically the equivalent of Euro Disneyland, Euro Reptar Land, and it runs amok all over Paris. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little too over the top, even for a kids movie. It leaves you asking so many questions, like, most notably, why the hell is there room at the top of this robot for a baby to control this giant robot around? And like, it's creating havoc all over Paris, and it's just like, it's kids movie logic, I get it, but still, I have to ask that question about this movie. But overall, when you really look at the film in general, it is definitely a vast improvement over the previous film in terms of the better animation, better storytelling, better visuals, better music. It's just more nicely done, well put together. You can see a lot more effort being put into the final product, and it works very well. If I have to pick the best overall Rugrats film of the three films, this is definitely my choice for it. It's definitely a vast improvement over the first movie, and I recommend it. Rugrats in Paris, the movie. So with that said, on to our next film, and that is Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Sixth Day.
After being scanned.
The human was cloned. That human was you.
Well, you cloned the wrong man.
And you destroyed the evidence. And you're the evidence.
Daddy?
How do you know? He's not you, and you're not him.
I know who I am. The Sixth Day, rated PG-13. Opens everywhere November 17th.
So The Sixth Day tells the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's a family man of the future. He's illegally cloned by accident as part of a vast conspiracy involving a shady billionaire businessman, and is thrust into a struggle to clear his name and protect his family from the conspirators who seek to keep the cloning a secret. And the title refers to the Judeo-Christian Genesis creation narrative where God creates mankind on the sixth day. And this is also the acting debut of Terry Crews, who basically has a cameo in... Not even a cameo, but a supporting role in here, working for the main villain of the film, played by Tony Goldwyn. Michael Rappaport, Michael Rooker, and Robert Duvall are also in the film as well. This was one that did not do well at the box office when it came out, but it was one of those ones when I saw the posters for this and saw the trailers for it, I kind of wanted to see it. I thought it was something that I'd really be getting into. I never got to see it in theaters, but I finally got to watch it when it came out on DVD, and I really enjoyed this one. This was a very underrated Schwarzenegger film. He wasn't making the best action movies of his career up to this point, but this was a really fun movie. It has a great, interesting premise that's very reminiscent of something like from what was in Total Recall, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was based off of something by the people who made Total Recall, by the person who made Total Recall. I could be wrong on that, don't quote me on that, but it's not listed here on Wikipedia, so I could be wrong on that completely, but I thought the movie was fun overall. It's not a great movie per se. It has a lot of flaws to it. The story does get a little bit too predictable for its own good, but I thought they did a good job of handling much of the premise as they could, and the film overall is a ton of fun. It's Schwarzenegger doing what Schwarzenegger does best. I like the ideas of the film. I like the motivations they were setting up here. I think it is a very solid, well-made film. Definitely could have been a whole lot better, but it was one that I was really happy to see that it actually was seen as kind of an enjoyable film overall when I finally got a chance to see it after the time I didn't get to see it in theaters. But Yeah, I really enjoyed it. 6 Day, very underrated Schwarzenegger film. I recommend it. But so with that said, on to our last film, and that is Ben Affleck and Gwyneth Paltrow in the romantic comedy Bounce.
In front of Head's LA's hottest ad executive. I'm a born salesman closer. Being smooth was part of his game. I was gonna call you.
Yeah, I was gonna hold my breath.
Until Abby
Hello.
became a part of his life. She's not something you get tired of. I'm more worried she's gonna get tired of me. Academy Award winners Ben Affleck and Gwyneth Paltrow.
I want someone to say goodnight to. A last call of the day.
Bounce.
I don't have a last call of the day.
PG-13 in theaters Friday, November 17th.
Perhaps the term romantic comedy in quotation marks would probably work better, but in this you have Ben Affleck, who plays a guy who has just signed an airline in Chicago as a big client, but is ironically delayed at the airport, waiting for a flight on LA at that same airline. He meets a fellow passenger named Greg, who opts to be bumped, even though it means missing an activity with his oldest son. When the flight gets resumed, Buddy thinks he's doing a good deed by swapping tickets with Greg so he can get home to his son. Sadly, the flight crashes, and Buddy conspires with his friend, the ticket agent, that night to take his name off the passenger list and put Greg's on. Once he's back in LA, his new client dictates that the company runs a series of feel-good ads about the crash. Buddy feels very hypocritical and completely loses it when the commercials win a Clio. After going through rehab, he decides he needs to check on Craig's widow, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, but he doesn't plan on falling in love with her. And you can kind of see where this is going to go from here. And yep, it's literally going to go down every single romantic cliche path we've seen done over and over again. This is directed by Don Roos, who gave us The Opposite of Sex beforehand, and that was a better film than anything in this movie, and it just doesn't work because it's not an engaging story, and you don't really buy into the relationship between Affleck and Paltrow. These are two Academy Award-winning actors, and they just can't... The chemistry just isn't there overall. It just doesn't have that spark that needs to really lift a story like this over, and it really does hurt itself in the end, despite a really good cast overall, and also includes Joe Morton, Natasha Henstridge, Tony Goldwyn again, Johnny Galecki, David Paymer, Alex D. Linz, Jennifer Grey. There are some interesting ideas overall here, but just the execution just doesn't really come together when it matters the most, and it just didn't work overall. It really was a major misfire on a number of different levels, and you really do expect a whole lot more from it. Not much more I could say about this one. That's Bounce for you.
You're in the emergency room in the Philadelphia City Hospital. I'm gonna ask you some questions. Where were you sitting on the train?
Against the window.
In the passenger car?
Yes.
You're certain you were in the passenger car?
Yeah. Where are the other passengers?
Your train derailed. Took a curve too fast. A second train collided with yours after it derailed. The debris spread over 1 mile.
Why are you looking at me like that?
There are 2 reasons why I'm looking at you like this. 1, because it seems you are the only survivor of this train wreck. And 2, you don't have a scratch on you.
I know what's going through your mind right now. You're searching for meaning in all of this. Know one thing. 131 people died so you could finally understand the destiny for which you were born. Are you ready for the truth?
So Unbreakable tells the story of Bruce Willis. He survives a train crash with no injuries, leading to the realization he harbors superhuman abilities. And as he begins to grapple with the discovery, he comes to the attention of this disabled comic book store owner, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who manipulates David to understand him. And quite honestly, this is probably M. Night Shyamalan at his peak. I mean, he made a great movie with The Sixth Sense, And then to go above that for this movie, I mean, this is really his magnum opus as a filmmaker. I mean, this is where it truly peaked for him. I mean, he creates a story that's a realistic vision of the superhero genre, does something new and different with it, and you really don't know, and it probably has one of the greatest twists that Shyamalan has ever done. In fact, probably the greatest twist Shyamalan has ever done. Like, you really don't see it coming at the end, and it's like one of those things, like, the first time you see it, you really do not see it coming, but, like, it's hard to really piece it together after multiple viewings afterwards, because it still really does take you by surprise at the end, when it's eventually revealed on what exactly happens with this particular twist in here. And Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson are just top-notch in this. I love the visual look of the film. The music by James Newton Howard is nicely done. The script is well done. Really, there's not much more I can say about this movie. It hasn't already been said already. It really is Shyamalan's magnum opus. No film he's made since then has ever topped this. And the fact that he was able to continue this into another movie altogether with Split and then Glass, that's pretty impressive stuff right there. It's a really good movie, man. I can't recommend this one enough. If you haven't seen Unbreakable, you're really doing yourself a huge disservice. Definitely check it out. I can't really say too much more about this one that hasn't already been said already. So, with that said, on to our next movie, and that is 102 Dalmatians. And you ready to see one of the worst trailers of all time?
It's been 3 long years since the incident. 36 months to relive every detail. 1,095 days to think about what went wrong. And 26,280 hours to plot revenge. That's 11,037,600 minutes. In dog years. Glenn Close.
Today is the first day of the rest of your life.
In Walt Disney Pictures' 102 Dalmatians. It's a brand new tale.
I mean, I get it. You didn't have any footage because you hadn't started filming. I think that trailer actually came out a year before when it was placed on Toy Story 2 in '99, but come on, man. Like, you really couldn't find a better way to show Glenn Close back in there. You had to take archival footage and do a terrible green screen job behind it. I mean, that is absolutely horrible right there. And, honestly, it's not too close to the movie itself because it's definitely a step down compared to the original film, the live-action film. So basically, after a spot of therapy, Cruella de Vil, once again played by Glenn Close, is released from prison a changed woman. Devoted to dogs and good causes, she's delighted that her parole officer has a Dalmatian family and connections to a dog charity, but the sounds of Big Ben can reverse the treatment, so it is only a matter of time before Miss DeVille is back to her incredibly ghastly ways, using her newfound connections with Chloe and friends, which basically means that we're doing the same story over. We're basically just rehashing the same story as the first movie. Nobody really changes. Everybody goes back to where they were. And as much as Glenn Close does still a pretty good job as Cruella de Vil, this one just can't be saved because of how lackluster the story is. And, like, there are some cool ideas to it. Like, I like this idea of this one Dalmatian who has no spots on him. Like, I think that's a fun idea. And yeah, occasionally it's fun to see these Dalmatians once again. But at the same time, though, what John Hughes brought to the original 101 Dalmatians, the 96 one, still holds up. And everything about that one still works for the most part. But here, it just feels like a pointless sequel on so many levels. There's nothing about this movie that has any real story to it. It's just lackluster kiddie jokes. I mean, if you want to see, Mr. Fantastic in one of his early film roles, there you go. But other than that, though, yeah, it's a complete waste of time. And luckily, they made a better version of this with 101 Dalmatians 2, the direct-to-video movie, which is one of the better Disney direct-to-video sequels when you really think about it. It's actually pretty funny and well done. I would recommend more than this movie in particular. This just isn't much fun at all. It's just a real letdown. So yeah, that's 102 Dalmatians. So let's go ahead and take a look at our last film we have here, and that is Quills.
It's a scandal.
It's the work of the Marquis de Sade.
When passion is silenced,
Back to his cave.
desire is denied,
Certain feelings it must not voice.
power is defied. Everyone pays the price. The New York Times calls Quills liberating Best Picture material.
Do you mean to take us all down with you?
Quills. Only in theaters.
So Quills is a period piece directed by Philip Kaufman, who gave us The Unbearable Lightness of Being and Henry and June, and it's adapted from the Obie Award-winning play by Doug Wright, who also writes the script for this, and it's basically inspired by the life and works of the Marquis de Sade, and it reimagines the last years of the Marquis's incarceration in the insane asylum at Charenton, and you have Jeffrey Rush as the Marquis de Sade, Kate Winslet, Joaquin Phoenix, Michael Caine. It's very much a period film, and a decent period film in particular. Nothing too spectacular about it per se. I thought it was alright. I don't think it's one of the best movies of the year, but it delivers what it promises. All the performances are very good. Kate Winslet's very good here, so is Jeffrey Rush. You know, Joaquin Phoenix, Michael Caine, Stephen Moyer's also in here as well. But other than that, though, there really isn't a whole lot more I can say about it, except the fact that it's a nice-looking period piece film, but it never really takes that second step to really become something that you have to see in the theater. It's just kind of like, you're looking for a good modern-day period piece, this will do the trick for you. But other than that, though, there really isn't a whole lot there I can really say about it that's truly spectacular, but it's fine for what it is. Definitely delivers what it promises, gives you what you want, and it's just kind of like vapor. It comes and goes, and you just move on with your life, and you're just like, I remember that. It was kind of good for a one-time watch, but for one-time watch, I thought it was fine. But other than that, though, not much more to say about Quills.